Hello everyone, Nadeem here with PC.Solutions.Net. Like and subscribe to this video. It really helps everybody out. So today I'm going to go on a little tangent. I'm going to talk a little bit about PC versus Mac. I know. It's one of those things that has created battles among humans. But anyway, so, a wise man once said that I was a Mac person stuck in a Windows world, and not entirely accurate. For the last few years I've been using Windows heavily. My primary machine has been a Windows-based machine. My secondary machine has been macOS, but here's why I like Apple products specifically. When I first got my Mac, so historically I was a Windows person, right? It was I thought that Apple products were toys. This is before the iPhone days, and I remember we were on a trip somewhere. Yeah, we were on a trip. I was going to pick up a motorcycle in another city, and I had to restart a phone system, and it had a GUI on it. And to be able to restart it, I had to check a box and then hit OK. And I remember back in the day, I had a compact iPack. It was a Windows mobile-based device. And I had a stylus, and I tried to click it, and the stylus was not thin enough to where I can click that little radio box. I was having trouble. So the guy who was driving, he said, "Here, take my iPhone, do it on my iPhone." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, if I can't do it on my iPack, how the hell am I going to do it on that toy? Well, so he said, "Well, just try it." And I was like, okay, whatever. And I took his iPhone, and first I didn't know where to go to open up the browser. And that's when I found out it's something called Safari. So I went in there and I logged in, and I couldn't click it. And I was like, see, my fingers are too thick. If I can't click it with a stylus, how am I going to click it with a finger? And he says, "Well, unpinch it, zoom in." And I was like, "What?" And he says, "Well, just unpinch it." I'm like, and I did that, and I was like, whoa, that zoom in worked, and I was able to check the little box, and I was able to restart it. Long story short, on the way back, I picked up an iPhone, and that's when it all started. After a few months of using the iPhone, I got my first MacBook Pro. And now keep in mind, before this, all of my laptops that I used to have, they were all Windows based. And I've been through a few, like IBM, the ThinkPad, the original ThinkPads, the Lenovo's, the HPs, the Dells. I work in IT all day long, and usually the keys get rubbed off my laptops and my computers. That's how much I use them. And it was kind of like the running joke that, a machine is good if it lasts me over a year, because usually something breaks on a machine. Not that I abuse it, I take very good care of my stuff, but eventually the hardware, there will be hardware failure. So I remember either the screens will go out, they'll start to flicker. I remember one of the IBM ThinkPads, it developed a crack in the board. So if you were holding the laptop from one end and you were walking somewhere, that little flexing would open up the crack, and the whole machine would just blue screen and restart. So anyway, none of the PC-based machines would last me for over a year. When I got my MacBook Pro, within the first 6 months, I had an issue with the audio jack. The little audio jack wasn't working right. Like the mic part wasn't working, but the headphone part was. So they, I took it back to the Apple store, and they did their thing. And they said, okay, here, it's fixed, and it worked for a little bit, and then same issue arose again. So this happened twice. The third time I went in there and I talked to the manager at the store, and I was like, look, this is not working out. Obviously we're going in circles. This is the third time you're fixing this. It's it's the third time? She pulled up the report, says, yep, it is. It's like, we're gonna give you a new machine. Whoa, blown away, right? What PC company does that? So that was like, wow, okay. And then the replacement machine was actually the next level up because the one that I had was not in production anymore. So they gave me the next level up. That machine lasted me for over 5 years. Now think about it. Typically, a machine for me would barely last me a year. Every year I would have to replace it, upgrade it, whatever. It stopped working. Over 5 years. Finally, I had to get rid of that machine because I couldn't get updates anymore to the OS. The hardware was still good. So compressing time a little bit. So I went a few years with my MacBook Pros. I got an iMac and I was fully on Mac. And then we became a Microsoft Surface reseller. So now, of course, when I say Surface, everybody's thinking, oh, okay, well, that's Microsoft's answer to the Apple MacBooks, and it's similar hardware, it's high-end hardware. You're gonna pay a premium, but you're gonna get good hardware. Well, not entirely accurate. So the hardware is not as good as Apple's hardware, I would say, when it comes to Microsoft Surface devices or any Microsoft hardware. But here's the reason why I standardized on Microsoft Surface, because we got access to NFR devices, which is not for resale. Since we were a reseller, now, so the running joke now was that Microsoft makes it so hard for us to buy non-Microsoft hardware because they give us such huge discounts. So yeah, so I've been using Microsoft Surface devices ever since we became a Microsoft Surface reseller because of the price point. Now, recently, some things have happened. The hurricane just went through Houston, and so I had to rely on power, like battery power more. I had to move between locations and I had to connect to Wi-Fi. Well, my Surface device has served me for about 2 years now. It's a Surface Laptop Studio. And it's one of the NFR units. And keep in mind, the NFR units are the highest of the high end. They have more memory, they have faster CPUs, everything is high end because these are demo units. These are units that resellers are going to use to demo to their customers. So they better be good. So what happened is, number one, the battery life sucks on Windows. That's not a hardware problem. I understand, I know. That's an OS problem. Windows is just not designed to be good at conserving energy. It just isn't. And you can search for it and you'll see what I'm talking about. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, Microsoft's hardware is much better than third parties, basically stuff that is made to compete on price, but it is not as good as Apple's hardware. So after about 2 years, so yeah, it's better than 1 year, but after about 2 years, some kind of issue develops on my Microsoft Surface devices. So my Surface, the tablet version, the hybrid PC, the one with that folio keyboard thing. So that one lasted me about a year, and it developed an issue with the keyboard. I had another Surface laptop, developed an issue with the trackpad. And now I have the Surface Laptop Studio. And just a few days ago, the Wi-Fi card disappeared. It's like I didn't have any Wi-Fi. Now keep in mind, the hurricane had just gone through. I was moving between locations. I had to put out a few fires, and I need to rely on my machines. I can't be like, I can't go to a client and say, oh, I can't fix your office, can't bring your office up because my friggin' tool doesn't work. That's not gonna fly, right? It has to work every time, all the time. So the Wi-Fi card disappeared, and it's okay because I had my iPhone with me, which always works, and so I connected via Bluetooth, and I used the PAN, the personal area network, to get Wi-Fi access or internet access, and everything was fine. And then found out that for whatever reason, Windows had updated the driver. I didn't do it; it just did it, and I'm thinking that's what happened. Because when I went into my devices and there was a little exclamation mark next to my Wi-Fi controller, so what I did is I rolled back the driver, but I rolled it back. Instead of going with an Intel driver, I went to a Microsoft driver, and that fixed the problem and the machine came back on. However, that battery life is still a huge issue. So I've been tweaking things, I've been removing things, things that I can live without. I'm like, I'm gonna get rid of them to conserve battery as much as I can. But the longest that the battery has lasted on my Microsoft Surface is 2 hours, and that's stretching it. I mean, that's the best that I have been able to squeeze out of my Microsoft Surface. About 8 or 9 years ago, my MacBook Pro used to last me 5 hours. About 8-9 years ago, years. And here we are 8-9 years later, and still I have this top of the line Microsoft Surface where the battery lasts about 2 hours. So I've been doing a lot of testing, and now I'm at this crossroads where, and sorry this video is getting long, but the crossroads, I have a fork in the road. I can stick with what I'm doing right now, stay with the Microsoft Surfaces and get 2 hours of battery life, or I can go to MacBook Pro and get, I don't know, 15-20 hours of battery life. Now, Microsoft can discount the hell out of the Microsoft Surfaces for us, and I'll give the Microsoft Surface NFR units to some of my other people in the company, some of the other engineers. They can work with those, but to me, it is not worth it anymore, even if it is a fraction of the cost of a MacBook Pro, because when I need it most, when I need to rely on it, something goes south. And when I need to rely on that battery for more than an hour, more than 2 hours, I know I can't. It's not gonna go more than 2 hours. I mean, after about 1 hour, when I see that little thing getting kind of low, it starts to worry me. And because I'm like, I don't want to run out of battery, in the middle of doing something critical and not being near power. So that's a decision that I'm gonna have to make, and I think it's fairly made up decision, which is I'm going to go with the MacBook Pro. And I know some of you are thinking, okay, well, why not the Qualcomm Snapdragon chip machines, right? The new machines that came out. Well, the problem is those machines running DaVinci is still very problematic on those machines, on the Windows machines running on Qualcomm. So the RISC chip Windows is not gonna work for me right now because I rely on DaVinci for all the video editing. But it works fine on the Macs, so I think it's gonna be a Mac. And until something drastic happens in the PC world, it's just not worth it for me. So that was my rant, and thanks for putting up with me. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, comment. As far as usability goes, I know some of you are thinking, well, how's the experience? How's the usability? It's fairly close to each other, so I can work with pretty much any kind of OS, whether it's one of the Linux variants or macOS or Windows. I'm a little, my productivity is a little higher on the Mac side, but that's only because because of all the gestures and stuff and being able to tailor the machine to my needs. But overall, it's a wash. It doesn't matter. The human interface is very similar. The problem is how the OS interacts with the hardware. And don't tell me, well, Mac is good because Apple makes the software and the hardware. Well, that's what Microsoft Surface devices are. Microsoft makes Windows and Microsoft makes the Surface devices, but they still suck. So there's that. Anyway, hope everybody having a great day. And on a side note, if you guys were hit by a hurricane and if you're still having some issues, let us know, reach out to us. We have some resources available. We can probably help you out. And I will still come out with my Microsoft Surface machine because I haven't bought the MacBook yet, but I think I'm going to fairly soon. So everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.